Hi there. My name is Austin Nowakowski with Nowakowski Legal PLLC. It's a Seattle-based law firm that focuses on probate, estate planning, and estate litigation. This show is going to be focusing on inheritance litigation and inheritance disputes, or as they're known in Washington, TEDRA disputes. And this is actually the first show that I'll be doing on this. To give you a brief rundown as to what I'm looking to do with this show is to essentially do two things. First, I want to provide and inform people that might not have a legal background or who might just not know as to the process that you would go about in the event that you had some form of a dispute in regards to a will or a trust or some other form of estate problem. If you ever had a problem with that, this show is going to go through a bunch of different items discussing how that's handled, at least in the state of Washington. The other side of that spectrum is that I am doing this show for attorneys and other professionals that might have a good grasp on estate planning or might have a good grasp on probate, but might not or might shy away from wanting to do the litigation aspect, which kind of falls into this TEDRA atmosphere. And I want to provide them with either a little bit of knowledge in regards to how you go about that process, or B, I want to let them know that, hey, there's a guy in Washington, such as myself, that likes to do these kind of actions, and I'd be more than happy to assist them if that's what they need. So anyway, without further ado, I guess we'll just go ahead and dive into it. The first show that I'm doing here is going to just be an overview. Essentially, I just want to kind of let you know what TEDRA is so that you have an idea, in the event that something comes up and you are looking to figure out how it is resolved. So, as you might know, in Washington or in any state for that matter, usually when somebody passes away, you would go and you would hire an attorney and you would appoint an executor or a personal representative to essentially administer the estate. But what happens when there's a dispute? What if somebody doesn't agree with the will? Or what if there is no probate and you're actually adhering to the terms of a trust, but you don't think the trustee is doing what they're supposed to do? What would you normally do? Well, in most states, what you would do is you would either file an action through the probate, or you might actually have to file a separate civil action through the civil courts. And in some states, such as Washington, you would have a specific procedure set aside through a set of statutes that would give you a specific avenue to dispute those issues. In Washington, it's known as TEDRA. TEDRA stands for Trust and Estate Dispute Resolution Act. And to give you a little brief background on it, prior to 1999, Washington did not have TEDRA, so the way that you would resolve disputes was either through having to go through civil action, or you would have to go through the probate and essentially argue through that manner. And it was a little bit more complicated. And what the Washington legislature had found was that this was taking way too long. The people that were usually bringing these disputes were usually the heirs or the people that were intended to inherit. And the courts somewhat found that, hey, these people have already been through enough. Normally, these are families that are going at each other and having to dispute amongst each other. And it's just, why are we making this such a difficult process for them? So they set aside a specific statute and they passed it through the legislature. It's called 1196A. That's the TEDRA statute. If you ever felt like looking it up, it's in the RCWs. And what its intent was to somewhat streamline any estate administration disputes or disputes regarding a will or a trust or anything that has to do with essentially the administration of a state, for lack of a better term. As I had just mentioned, Washington, and pretty much every state has probate, and in Washington, probate has been put together in such a way that it's not as much of a hassle in most other states. In Washington, probate is very streamlined. It's much quicker than if you were in a different state other than Washington. And a lot of the problems that people have with probate don't exist in Washington because it's so streamlined and so quick. So what the legislature did in enacting the TEDRA statutes, and I think they went through in 2000, was they tried to effectively streamline any estate administration disputes in the same manner that you would go through is the same manner as they had done in probate. So to some extent, they did succeed. There are a lot of things that are put in place for TEDRA disputes or TEDRA litigations that just kind of shoot it through the pipe, so to speak, and make it a heck of a lot quicker. But on the other side of things, much like when anybody or when the government does anything in regards to changing the laws or changing the procedure for something, they also complicated it because it's now not completely different, but it's a little bit different than what the standard procedure for bringing a civil action or a probate action would be. And that confuses a lot of people that are handling it either for the first time or that just, have never done it before and just are used to doing it a different way. So if you know what you're doing with TEDRA, it is quicker and it does provide a quicker avenue. But if it's your first time, you're probably going to look at it and just not really understand how you're supposed to go through it. The good news is if you're simply looking for an attorney and you can find an attorney that understands TEDRA, they will already know how it works and they'll be able to bring you through it, and your resolution should be not pretty quick in coming because it's still going through the courts. It's still going to take some time, but it's going to be quicker likely than if you had actually had to go through a regular civil action. So with that kind of being the brief background of TEDRA and the brief understanding as to what it kind of does, I thought I'd go a little bit more into the specifics as to what TEDRA can be used for. So I've already said a couple of things. TEDRA can be used for if you have a dispute on a will, or if you have a dispute in regards to how a trustee is administering a trust, or if you believe that the personal representative that's been appointed to your to the estate of the person that's passed away is mishandling something or not doing something appropriately, the avenue that you may need to go through, or the avenue that might be best for you to go through, would be through filing a TEDRA petition. So the best way to think about it is TEDRA litigation or TEDRA petitions are excellent for when you have a dispute as to inheritance. So if you think that something's going wrong with your inheritance and you think that you need to have some form of litigation in that realm, then, well, if you're in Washington, you're likely going to have to go through the TEDRA procedures, the TEDRA statutes, and have to file a TEDRA petition. In the same vein, TEDRA also offers a really cool or really handy means of resolving non-disputes amongst intended beneficiaries and interested parties in an estate. So the other cool thing that TEDRA can actually allow you to do is when there's not even a dispute or an argument amongst the intended beneficiaries or the interested parties to an estate administration, but there is a problem with, say, a will or a trust, and what the person that passed away or what the person that created the trust had intended is not actually occurring. So for example, maybe a will was drafted and everybody in the family knew that the person that passed away wanted Daisy to get his favorite sled, but it wasn't put in the will. Well, if everybody in the family agrees that this is what he intended and everybody's fine with that happening, they can go file a TEDRA agreement or a TEDRA settlement, and essentially as soon as they all sign it, and then as soon as they enter it into the courts under the TEDRA rules, it becomes binding, and essentially that's how the estate will be administered. So it can be very, very handy for resolving situations as well. Another example would be potentially for a trust that maybe was created 20 or 30 years ago, and it didn't have information in regards to how to handle itself and with current laws and current statutes. All of the intended beneficiaries or the interested parties could get together, enter into an agreement, file it through TEDRA, and essentially amend that trust so that it fits with what the current obligations or the current needs of everybody would be. So TEDRA can even be a very powerful tool for people that aren't even entering into some form of litigation amongst themselves. So again, the bottom line that I want you all to take away from this video is that when you are faced with an issue in regards to an estate issue, or when somebody passes away and there might be some form of dispute amongst the heirs, intended heirs, or maybe an heir that wasn't actually intended but thinks they were, these actions are likely going to have to go through a TEDRA proceeding in Washington. Also, if there's ever a problem that you all would see, or that everybody would see that is an interested party in the estate administration with how things are being done, or what maybe some wording in the will or some wording in the trust, and everybody agrees that this isn't what was meant, you can also use a TEDRA settlement for purposes of entering it the way that it was intended to go. So again, just remember that is overall what TEDRA is actually meant to achieve. It's essentially supposed to be a streamlined process to resolve the outstanding disputes of an estate administration or some estate planning issues. So that's it for the first video that I'm putting together. I wanted to make it really quick and really easy and just kind of give you a broad overview of everything. I want to let you know that I'll probably be putting out one of these every couple of weeks. If you are an heir or somebody that stands to inherit and you are having some issues in regards to how things are being handled, please feel free to contact my law office. I would love to help you. Or if you are an attorney or a professional out there that just doesn't normally handle these kind of things or needs some assistance with it, feel free to contact me as well. I would be happy to help you with this as well. In addition to that, as I said at the beginning of the video, I also do estate planning. I also do probate. So even if there isn't a dispute, I also handle regular probates, which are much simpler than the TEDRA proceedings that we've been talking about here today. And as of course, I also do estate litigations under TEDRA in Washington. If you would like to get a hold of me, or if you'd like to contact me, again, my law office is called Nowakowski Legal PLLC. You can reach me at 425-243-9595, or you can reach me via email at Austin, AUSTIN, at Nowakowski, NOWAKOWSKI, legal, LEGAL.com. Other than that, if I wanted to kind of put a throw out there that if anybody, any attorneys out there, or even any potential clients, or just somebody that has a question, if you want me to focus an episode on that specific area of inheritance disputes or estate litigation, give me the question. I'd be happy to research it and do a show on it, and that would actually help me to know what people are actually looking to know about this kind of stuff. So again, if you have a question, feel free to just leave it in the comments, or to send me an email on my email address, or whatever, and that would be great. So other than that, thank you all for watching my video. I really do appreciate it, and I look forward to speaking with you all again sometime here in the near future. Have a great day.